Hello, and welcome to Rehab and Recovery with Dr. Miles Sandoval. I am Dr. Miles Sandoval. I'm a physical therapist specializing in online recovery coaching and meal support to support my clients on the journey to recovery from eating disorders and other addictions. In today's video, I wanted to talk about gatekeeping in addiction recovery, specifically what it is, why it's harmful to everybody involved, and what we can do instead to protect our own recoveries without putting other people down in the process. So if you're not familiar with the concept of gatekeeping as it relates to addiction recovery, there's an idea in some recovery circles that there is a real sobriety that fits one strict definition, and that anything that fits a different definition is fake sobriety or not real sobriety. For example, drinking coffee has caffeine, which can be addictive to some people. So is that real sobriety or is that fake sobriety? And the problem with the idea of fake sobriety is that if you start subtracting everything that can potentially be addictive, like coffee, like cigarettes for some people, like exercise, like sex, like shopping, you end up kind of painting yourself into this very small, very empty room where there's no TV, because that could potentially be addictive, and there's not even any playing cards to pass the time with, because that could potentially be gambling, which is potentially addictive. So the truth is that everyone has their own definition of recovery, and most people are just trying to find the definition that keeps them away from what they consider to be their problem behaviors, but still has room for a full life, whatever that person considers to be a full life, which might include coffee, which might include gambling, which might include cigarettes. And the idea of gatekeeping is both harmful to people who are feeling unsure if they are really recovered or really in recovery, who are afraid that they might be fake recovered or fake sober. It's really discouraging to hear when you're working so hard in your own recovery that your recovery is not real. Whether that's because you're doing medication-assisted therapy to get off stronger opiate painkillers, or whether it's simply because you still drink coffee. On the flip side, that kind of behavior also harms the people who are the gatekeepers, because it prevents them from connecting with anybody whose recovery falls outside their narrow definition of what real recovery looks like. But I like to think that there's a kernel of truth or a kernel of goodness in most things. And I think that one of the things that gatekeeping accomplishes is it keeps that person away from potentially triggering people or potentially triggering situations. Like if I used to smoke cigarettes and now I consider abstinence from cigarettes to be part of my recovery. If I act as a gatekeeper and I tell people who still smoke cigarettes that their recovery is not real, I know that I won't ever have to be around people who smoke cigarettes, or one of my friends won't whip out a cigarette by surprise, and then I won't have to experience any kind of urges. So in a way, it can serve as a protector of someone's personal recovery or sobriety. But there are ways to protect your own recovery that don't involve tearing other people down. And I think it's very helpful to remember that everyone has the right to pursue happiness in whatever way they see fit until it impinges on somebody else's freedoms. But everybody has the right to pursue happiness, and they also have every right to make themselves miserable as long as it doesn't impede on somebody else's freedoms. Which is to say that it says nothing about your neighbor in recovery from alcoholism who may choose to smoke cigarettes as part of his recovery. Likewise, it says nothing about you that you may choose to abstain from coffee in your own recovery. And that's how you define recovery for yourself. There's room for both of these things. And if you run into someone whose definition of recovery leads to a lot of triggering situations for you personally, such as someone like me, for example, being an ex-cigarette smoker, trying to be friends with somebody in recovery from alcoholism who still smokes cigarettes, if I find that that is a triggering situation every time that we get together, I don't have to associate with that person. I also don't have to tear them down in the process. I'm trying to remember if there's anything else I wanted to say about gatekeeping. Sorry, guys. Thanks for holding on for the suspense. I don't think there is, but I do want to take the time to say thank you so much for watching my video. Please like, subscribe, and share with someone who may be feeling a little discouraged or who may be questioning if their recovery is real enough or valid enough. Because you are the only person who gets to define what that means for you. And my hope is that you can find peace in whatever definition of recovery you choose to embody. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you all again very soon.